Hey everybody, Adam Savage in my cave with just a story to tell you. A story with a visual aid. Here's a picture of me with my R2-D2. Ooh, hi hair. Hi. Here's a picture of me with my R2-D2. Here's a picture of me working on one of the original R2-D2s. Hold on, I gotta make a list of these things. Hold on. Just a second. Okay. R2-D2 is a very important character to me. And when I was working at Industrial Light and Magic from the late 90s to the early aughts, one of the original aluminum Kenny Baker R2-D2 sat next to my desk for about a year and a half, just like right next to my desk. So I took some measurements. And eventually, with some of my colleagues, we hand-built our own R2-D2s. We did not use any original parts whatsoever. Everything was scratch-built. All we used was information, and we made our own. I completed mine around 2005, 2006, having started in 99. And R2 lived in my kids' room. He's lived in all of my houses since then. A friend of mine said when I was building him, he's like, "You're building a happiness machine. How could you be in a bad mood if R2 is in your house? I ask you," he said. And R2 has had my R2 has had several drive systems over the years. At one point when I was making Savage builds, I wanted to do an entire episode about R2. Here was the pitch. I have witnessed Ben Burt's original sound library, the digital files. I've seen them for R2-D2's voice. Now, I'm not going to say that this is all of R2-D2's voice. I've seen some pieces of it. And I think Ben, when he actually performs R2, lines up a bunch of vocalizations on a MIDI board and effectively composes and plays him as an improvisation, which I love. And each of those digital files is a phrase. So when R2 goes, woo, 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 that means I don't know. It's really clear. When he goes, woo, woo, I'm scared. That's the title of the file, I'm scared. So one of my pitches for Savage builds was I would learn I'd learn all of those phrases. And then I could effectively maybe speak Droid. And I could talk to R2 and he could respond to me in Droid. But because I'd learned all of the phrases, I'd be able to talk to him like Luke does. Now I know Luke's got little subtitles on his monitor in his X-Wing. But that's what I was thinking. And a few years ago, I was nominated and voted onto the board of advisors for the Udvar Hazy Smithsonian Air and Space Museum, and for the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum. Udvar Hazy is but one of our facilities, but I was voted onto the board of advisors, and they reached out to me last year, a couple of years ago, and said, "Hey, we'd like R2 to be in the Futures in Space exhibit. Do you know of a reasonable fan-built R2 that we could borrow for the better part of a decade?" The loans aren't quite as long as that, but the exhibition's definitely going to be up that long. And I said, "Take mine. I would love my R2. I would love the space, number one, because he's always lived in here, and I always have to move him around. Not that that's a problem. Again, R2's a happiness machine. But I loved the idea, too, that my little guy goes off and makes people happy in another part of the world. Like hundreds and hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of people will see him after, over 10 years, millions of people will witness him and feel just a small bit of the same joy I have at looking at him up close. So I offered mine to the Smithsonian. We've covered this. I did some prep for it to head off to the Smithsonian. But one of the coolest things about sending a prop to the Smithsonian, sending an item to the Smithsonian, is that there's nobody, they take their stuff really seriously. Of course they do. They're the Smithsonian. Museums take their stuff really seriously. So my R2, I broke it into 5 parts, both legs, actually all 3 legs, body and head, and mailed them each separately, put an air tag in each box. And we really tried to shield them from damage, but the post office managed it anyway. And so my R2 arrived in Washington a little bit worse for wear. And R2 already is a little worse for wear, right? He's beaten up. Mine arrived even more beaten up. And the first thing that happened was I got this email with a giant PDF in it that was the condition report. And then all of these careful pictures of my R2 and its damage. Look, there's the foot got totally crushed. Totally crushed. And like people, all the pictures of where there are cracks and stuff that they're a little worried about, plus how they plan to display it and everything. And the PDF was to tell me exactly how it arrived, all of the pieces, exactly what condition they arrived in, and what fixes the museum wanted to do, how they wanted to do them, and asked me to approve them. So I did. And then once I did, they then did those repairs, and I got a second conservation report showing the before and after pictures. It's just... And then they worked out, I didn't include a ground wire in my power system running from the house into R2. So they swapped that out. They added a ground wire, I believe, and they sent me the original 2-prong power cord did not meet gallery requirements. Sorry about that, everybody. So they swapped out the 2-prong plug for a 3-prong plug and sent me another conservation treatment addendum. And I had them printed up and bound because there's something so beautiful about this. What is it? Well, obviously it's like joyful to have people pay careful attention to something that you care about. But yeah, that's lovely. You know, I've had my props photographed by Wired. They did a whole thing on objects of desire, and they borrowed some of my props to talk about objects of desire. And it was lovely. Dan Winters photographed my props. Like, what more could you ask for? So, you know, the conservation team, who I know many of at the Smithsonian, they're just the top notch of what they do. And they did such beautiful work, taking great care of my beautiful work. It feels like a hug, like an industrialized hug is what it feels like to have these conservationists. You know, for me, it's hilarious. I literally dropped a part of R2, getting him into the package. And when he arrives, they're all grabbing him with white gloves, but that's totally appropriate and that's right and proper. There's just something so funny to me about something that's still part of me, part of my existence, getting this kind of like long after you're dead sort of treatment, you know, the white glove, the hushed air, in a way. At any rate, when the exhibit opens, you will be able to go see my R2 in the gallery, and I'll let you know exactly where to go find him when he's up. It's still months away. But I wanted to share with you just this, that for my library, I now have this like almost 70 pages of detailed analysis and careful planning to fix my beautiful prop far from home so that he can make people happy for the next decade. What a delight. What an absolute freaking thrill. The Smithsonian, they're so much fun to work with and to play with. I'm always buoyed every time I go to one of the board meetings. Really, seriously, I'm always like, it just feels like a whole new set of possibilities, and they're taking good care of my boy. So thank you guys for joining me for this. I just thought you'd like that story. Yeah, have a great day. See you next time. Thank you so much for watching, and I have a question for you. Who doesn't love stickers? Nobody doesn't love stickers, that's who. And that's why at Tested we have released this mega sticker pack full of 11 of our favorite stickers, and you can buy it right now to adorn your toolbox, your notebooks, whatever you want at tested-store.com.